7 years ago, Cook County Jail made headlines when inmates attacked prison guards, but that incident looks minor compared to what just happened in Hillsborough County Jail. One of Foolio's alleged killers was caught on surveillance footage, beating a correctional officer, and the video is now going viral. The shocking clip shows the guard getting punched, kicked, and knocked to the ground like it was a street fight. Months have passed since Foolio's tragic murder, but his name keeps circulating online, mostly because the suspects in his case keep making headlines. Now, one of them, Davon Murphy, is in the spotlight again, but for all the wrong reasons. Court records reveal that Murphy, the fifth suspect in Foolio's case, is facing fresh charges after attacking a correctional officer so brutally that it nearly sent the man out cold. Murphy's actions have left many people wondering, why would he do something that could only make his time behind bars even worse? From the moment Davon Murphy stepped into that jail, he has been making things difficult for the guards. He has been disruptive and violent towards the prison staff, acting like he has nothing to lose. Maybe in his mind he thought, I am already facing life, how much worse can it get? But the truth is, it can always get worse. They are going to take away his commissary, phone access, and visits, and he will probably lose all his privileges. This was not just a fight between an inmate and a guard. This was a serious assault on a correctional officer, and now Davon is in even more trouble. All for what? According to the documents, the victim, Deputy Quaru, was busy handling an inmate's belongings when Davon walked up to him and started asking questions about why that inmate was being moved. Instead of minding his own business, Davon decided to stir things up. He could have just let the officer do his job, but he chose not to. That is when everything took a bad turn. In just a second, Davon became angry, and the officer told him to go to the holding cell. But as expected, Davon refused to listen. When the guard tried to take control and grabbed his left wrist to put on handcuffs, things got out of hand. In a sudden move, Davon turned around and used his right fist to punch the officer on the left shoulder. He did not stop there. He kept throwing punches, making the situation even worse for himself. Davon Murphy kept punching until he knocked the guard to the floor. The whole incident was caught on jail surveillance cameras, though the video has not been released yet. But this is not the first time something like this has happened. 7 years ago, Cook County inmates were caught on camera throwing punches at 2 prison guards, beating them so badly that the officers had to run for their lives. What happened next? A group of prison guards stormed in and arrested every single inmate involved. Someone once said that any inmate who threw a punch probably got an extra 5 years added to their sentence, along with at least a month in solitary confinement. But even that kind of punishment did not stop Foolio's killer from attacking a guard. To be honest, what else could you expect from someone who ran from the law for 6 months? And when he finally got caught, he was smiling in his mugshot like it was all a game. After the first wave of arrests in the Foolio murder case, Davon Murphy completely disappeared. For 6 months, he stayed out of sight, avoiding every attempt by the police to catch him. At one point, people even joked that he might have escaped to Africa. But in January, everything changed. On January 6, 2025, JSO finally caught up with Davon Murphy. They arrested him at an apartment complex on Lale Street in Jacksonville. Everyone was surprised. Why would he stay in the same city where the police were looking for him? But then again, maybe he thought he could blend in. What shocked people even more was his arrest photo. Instead of looking worried, he had a strange smile on his face. It was almost as if he was happy. Some people believed he was smiling because he already knew he was going to get a life sentence and had accepted his fate. Others thought he was relieved that the stress of running and always looking over his shoulder was finally over. One thing is for sure, being a fugitive is no easy life. But here is something interesting. Police picked him up on the 6th of January, and some people believe they were trolling him. If you do not get the joke, back in the day, Foolio was called Lil 6 because he represented 6 Block. Now, let me bring you up to speed on the Foolio murder case. When authorities started investigating the murder of rapper Julio Foolio, they quickly identified several suspects: Isaiah Chance, Alicia Andrews, Shag Wright, Rashad Murphy, and Davon Murphy was also charged in connection to Foolio's murder. While the first 3 suspects were arrested and taken into custody, Davin and Rashad Murphy decided to run and go into hiding. Investigators later confirmed that they had enough evidence linking all 5 suspects to their roles in the June 2024 shooting. Earlier, during Isaiah Chance's court hearing, the state requested that the court deny him bond. According to court documents, Isaiah had told a Jacksonville Sheriff's Office detective that if he ever got off his tracking monitor, he would leave the state and never be seen again. At the time, Isaiah was already under investigation for another crime and was wearing an electronic tracking monitor. Because of this, a Hillsborough County judge decided to deny bond for 3 of the suspects. During the pre-trial detention hearing, the judge ruled that Isaiah Chance, 21, Alicia Andrews, 21, and Sayan Gathright, 18, would all remain in jail without bond until their trial. The judge also pointed out that 2 other men were still facing charges in Foolio's murder. These 2 brothers had been on the run like athletes in their prime, trying to stay ahead of the law. Just like his brother, Rashad Murphy, 30, was eventually tracked down by deputies and U.S. Marshals. Law enforcement found him at an apartment complex on Collins Road in Jacksonville on a Monday night. The sheriff's office reported that officers arrived just after 9 p.m. and immediately started negotiating with him to surrender. As a safety measure, they also evacuated residents from the building. For nearly 12 hours, officers tried to get Rashad to come out, but he refused to listen. Eventually, a SWAT team had to breach the apartment in an attempt to force him out. Realizing that he had no way to escape, Rashad Murphy finally gave himself up shortly after midnight. At that time, however, law enforcement was still searching for Davin Murphy. Unlike Rashad, Davin had managed to keep a low profile ever since. The first set of arrests were made. Investigators continued their search, determined to bring him in. A major breakthrough in the case happened on June 26th, when Sean Gathright made a mistake that led to his arrest. JSO officers pulled him over during a traffic stop and found a Glock 9mm semi-automatic pistol in the center console of his car. When they searched the vehicle further, they also found live .223 rifle rounds and 9 spent shell casings in his possession. Although the pistol did not match the shell casings collected from the scene of Foolio's murder, police reports revealed something even more concerning. The rifle casings found inside Gathright's car were a presumptive match to 2 previous shootings. One was a homicide in May, and the other was a shooting on July 7, 2023. That shooting was actually an attempt on Foolio's life, which left him grazed by a bullet in the foot. This discovery led police to search Gathright's home, where they found even more evidence linking him to Foolio's murder. Inside his house, investigators discovered a gun safe filled with multiple rifles, including at least one that had a brass catcher. This detail was important because it matched the type of weapon used in Foolio's killing. Investigators also found spent 9mm shell casings inside the safe, which were a presumptive match to. The shell casings found in Gathright's gun safe were a match to the ones found at the scene of Foolio's murder. I told you, the police were fully invested in this case. They were determined to make sure these guys spent the rest of their lives behind bars. But that was not all. Investigators found even more evidence. Additional documents revealed that ring. Camera footage captured Gathright, Chance, Andrews, and Davin Murphy at an Airbnb in Tampa, just 1 mile away from where Foolio was killed. The Airbnb was booked from June 22nd to June 24th under the name Rashad Murphy. Investigators believed that before the shooting, Alicia Andrews had been searching for someone on Instagram to book an Airbnb for them. Since no one helped, they ended up reserving the place in Rashad Murphy's name and paid for it using Isaiah Chance's Cash App account. Police documents also showed that investigators listened to jail calls from an inmate named Shane. In one call, he spoke in coded language, mentioning good as, T-shots, and lesson the day after Foolio's murder. This helped investigators put more pieces of the puzzle together. According to the documents, Shane made 2 important calls. He used another inmate's call pin and had a female caller connect a third party on a 3-way call. During the conversation, he referred to Isaiah Chance as Double G. Speaking to T-Shots, he said, Double G did OT with the big rapper. Police quickly figured out that the big rapper was Foolio, and that OT was the name for the entire operation. According to the Tampa Police Department, all 5 suspects will face the maximum sentence of life in prison for their roles. In Foolio's murder. Florida state law is clear. When it comes to murder, even those who help plan or carry out the crime can receive the same punishment as the person who pulled the trigger, are liable for a life sentence. These guys are definitely facing life in prison, especially because investigators have labeled all of them as documented members of NHG and ATK. These groups have been locked in a deadly rivalry with Julio Foolio's 6 Block and KTA, which have been at the center of Jacksonville's violent gang war. This gang violence has been a serious problem for years. One of the most heartbreaking cases was the tragic death of 22-month-old Aiden McClendon in 2016. He was caught in the crossfire of this ongoing war, showing just how deadly things had become in the city. Jacksonville authorities have been working for years to bring these gangs down. One major victory for law enforcement was the takedown of an organized crime group called PCE, or Problem Child Entertainment. In a RICO trial, 10 of its senior members were sent to prison, and the gang was dismantled. This was a turning point in Jacksonville's street scene because after PCE fell, a new wave of influence emerged in the city's drill culture. That was when a young rapper named Julio Foolio stepped into the spotlight as the leader of KTA. Julio Foolio was from the north side of Jacksonville, and in one of his videos, he even said that the north side was the most dangerous part of the city. Many of the well-known faces in KTA, also called Kill Them All, were young boys from 6 Block, including Kojak. These young men became deeply involved in the gang lifestyle, leading to more violence and bloodshed on the streets. As time passed, more names became known in KTA, including Zion Brown, Techie Trey D, Cordy Spaz 2X, Lil Pi, Bibby, and Dirk. As mentioned earlier, KTA later formed an alliance with Slug AES, Young and Ruthless from A Block, and the Vontaland Boys. Some of their well-known members included Rod K and Mike K, but KTA's biggest enemy was none other than the Grim Reaper of Jacksonville, Young and Ace. Ace started off as a rapper, but he was also part of a crew of street rappers called the Youngin' Gang. This group was founded by Flip the Youngin' and Trigger Romo. Ace's talent in rap and his strong reputation in the streets brought attention to other members of his crew, including his blood brother Quan Quan and his close friend, 23 Kobe. Other names that became well known in the crew included Fast Money Goon, R Red.D, Darrow Ray, Spaz Trey, Shorty Crazy K, Sosa, and Scotty. These were some of the most feared individuals in Duval County, mostly coming from the west side of Jacksonville. Time went on, Ace decided to expand his influence and teamed up with different crews. This led to the formation of a powerful alliance known as Ace's Top Killers, or ATK. With this move, ATK's reach extended to the east side of Jacksonville, including Melvin Park. Some of the dangerous figures that joined ATK included Sue, his brother Boss Goon, and ATKYBZ ATK also formed a strong connection with another crew known as the 1200. The 1200s were a group that came from the 1200 block and had their own reputation in Jacksonville's gang world. Together, these alliances made ATK even stronger, turning them into one of the deadliest groups in the city. On the east side of Jacksonville, there was a crew known as 187, and back in the day, some members of this group were identified as S4C, which stood for Spas for Corbin. This was a tribute to a friend who was allegedly kidnapped by KTA, killed, dissed, and later found in the woods. One of the familiar faces from 1200 is Spinabenz, along with his brother Wah, who's known for carrying a chopper. So, the deadly gang war in Jacksonville pretty much revolves around north versus south, west versus east, with different crews staking their territories and forming alliances. Now that you have an idea of who the main players are, let's dive into the heart of the conflict. For the record, no one can say for sure when exactly the beef between ATK and KTA started. But when Julio Foolio was asked about what sparked the violence in Jacksonville, he pointed out 3 main reasons that fueled the ongoing war. The most devastating moment in the ongoing beef between the two crews happened on May 27, 2017. On that day, Foolio's cousin Zion Brown, also known as Tweaking Jit, was killed in his home during a triple shooting. His 2 sisters were also injured in the attack. According to police reports, Zion Brown was at home with his 16-year-old sister and their 9-year-old cousin when an intruder broke in and started shooting. By the time police arrived at the scene, they found the two young girls injured, and Zion Brown had been fatally shot. The 16-year-old girl who was hurt in the attack told the police that the shooter was DeAndrea Thomas, who went by the name ATK's Trey Shorty. Trey Shorty had previously been charged as an accomplice in a robbery. This incident marked a tragic point in the long-standing feud between the two crews. At the time of the case involving Young and Ace, police believed that Trey Shorty, also known as DeAndrea Thomas, had an accomplice. Soon, rumors spread on the street, and people started saying that Young and Ace had ordered the hit on Zion. The story went that Ace had someone else take the fall for the murder, and that person was Trey Shorty. Trey Shorty is now serving a life sentence for the murder of Zion Brown. But the question remains, why did Trey Shorty kill Zion Brown? According to the street rumors, Zion Brown was not the actual target that day. Instead, it was Y and R Tony Cho. The rumor had it that Tony Cho had robbed and shot Trey Shorty a week before the shooting, and Zion Brown was falsely claiming responsibility for the hit. Apparently, the ATK crew was looking for Tony Cho, who just happened to be at Zion's house when they arrived. As a result, everyone at the home, except for Cho, was shot. It's a crazy turn of events. Even though Trey Shorty ended up in jail, the KTA crew was still thirsty for revenge. The atmosphere in Jacksonville was filled with tension, and it felt like everyone could sense that a war was coming. During the investigation into Young and Ace, the investigator tried to warn him that the ATK would retaliate for Zion's murder, but the violence was far from over. By this time, the war between the KTA and ATK crews had officially started, but the ATKs were unaware of the tragedy that was about to hit them. On June 5, 2018, something unimaginable happened that would go down in rap history. On this day, Young and Ace, his blood brother Quan, 23, and Corby were out celebrating. It was 23's birthday, and the group decided to stop at Wasabi Japanese Steakhouse to enjoy the day. In the spirit of celebration, they uploaded videos to social media, unknowingly revealing their location to their enemies. As they left Wasabi and were on their way back home, tragedy struck. News 4 Jax reported that a drive-by shooter or shooters followed the group from St. John's Town Center to the Town Center Parkway, where they stopped at a traffic light. Over 120 shots were fired. Quan was hit with 3 shots, including 1 to the head. 23 was shot almost 5 times, and 4 of those shots were in his body, leaving him wounded with 12 shots in total. It was a devastating and violent attack that changed everything for both crews. Quan died at the scene, and Young and Ace was the only one who survived, despite nearly 8 bullets buried in his body. I think the ATKs underestimated the power and determination of YNR and KTA. In a moment of reflection, Ace expressed regret, saying, "We don't ever go out to eat because we don't do anything fun. So that was like our first time going out like that, and I ain't going to lie, we were slipping." Ace fought for his life in the hospital while still facing court cases related to possession of a firearm. He later recovered, which many described as a miracle. While Ace and the ATKs were mourning, Foolio and his crew were trolling and disrespecting, even going so far as to mock and make vile gestures toward 23's grave. The trolling hit hard, and Trey Shorty felt guilty. He posted a tribute on Instagram saying, "Sometimes I feel like it's all my fault. ATK ripped my LBRs." He was referring to the death of Zion Brown. Now the dice had been cast, and both gangs were fighting for a better position, each looking to take control. The conflict was far from over, and it only intensified from there. Following the attack, on ATK more bodies began to drop on both sides, and with each death, more diss tracks were released. In no particular order, Trey D from KTA was killed at a reunion party on the east side. Corbin, an ATK affiliate, went missing and was never heard from again. Boss Goon Casso's brother, who had just returned from jail, was killed in a drive-by, shooting after a block party. Then, the ATKs launched their first attempt on Foolio's life. According to Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, JSO, a man was shot multiple times in his car by a drive-by in a dark truck SUV. While the people in the SUV were never identified by the police, Foolio knew exactly who his enemies were. Over 20 spent. Casings from an AR-15 were found at the crime scene, and Foolio was injured in the foot during the attack. Despite being hurt, Foolio confirmed that he grabbed his gun in the middle of the attack and fired back. The police later reported that they found rifle casings in St. Gath's car that matched the ones collected from this crime scene, which served as proof of the connection. The attempt on Foolio's life on that day was carried out by the ATK allied forces. However, Shagit is not officially a documented ATK member. He is likely a hitman hired to take Foolio out. Since killing Foolio had proven difficult, the next move was to go after his family. The violence between the gangs became even more intense after the murder of Foolio's favorite cousin, BBY. Foolio explained that despite warning BBY about the growing violence and advising him to go to his grandmother's house, BBY decided to visit a friend at an apartment complex in Hilltop. Unfortunately, while he was there, the ATKs attacked him, and they ended up killing him. Eventually, Sue Ace's affiliate was charged with BBY's murder. If you know Sue, you know he is a dangerous and violent man, never showing mercy. He said that he kills without any reason. BBY's death sparked a new wave of disses, and the beef only escalated from there. The name BBY became famous after Ace's popular song Who I Smoke, in which he dissed several dead KTA affiliates. In a shocking turn of events, Sue took the diss to another level when he used BBY's picture as the cover of his latest album. He is currently serving life for the murder, but that did not calm the war. Soon after, the KTA would face the most devastating turn of events in the Jacksonville Deadly Gang War. Was this the end of the war, or the beginning of something even worse? Around 4:40 a.m. on June 23rd, a 911 call came in about a shooting in the parking lot behind McKinley and Fowler. The investigation is still early, but what we know so far is that 2 cars were shot at during the early hours. Julio Foolio met his tragic death in a brutal way, just after celebrating his 26th birthday in Tampa, Florida. Tampa police confirmed that Julio Foolio was the only person killed in an intense shootout that targeted 2 cars. When officers arrived at the scene, 3 other people were transported to the hospital. The people who were shot were taken to the hospital and are in stable condition. Now, hold on a minute. How did we get to this point? The pool party was supposed to start around 5 or 6 p.m. If you already got the address, just pull up. If you need the address, you can get it right now. Julio Foolio's birthday was on June 21st, but he wanted to extend the celebration. The party was supposed to continue until June 23rd. He promised a fun-filled pool party for his 26th birthday and even posted the flyer online, inviting everyone with the location to join in. Unfortunately, Death wanted to be part of the celebration that weekend, and Foolio's invitation was open to all. Remember, I told you at the beginning of this video that investigators found out how the 5 suspects, who are members of an allied gang force, drove from Jacksonville to Tampa a day before the shooting. They even booked an Airbnb for 2 days. Yes, they planned this carefully. Every move was calculated and executed with a certain level of precision. Interestingly, just a week before his death, Julio Foolio posted an invitation flyer for his birthday on his social media, sharing the location. The first comment under the post said, "This is getting shut up." Investigators believe that Julio Foolio was the target of a carefully planned attack. A surveillance video from one of the suspects' home cameras showed Isaiah Chance, 21, and his girlfriend Alicia Andrews, also 21, along with their group, tracking and following Julio Foolio from Jacksonville to Tampa in a silver Chevy Cruze. The duo followed Foolio to 2 different locations on the nights of his birthday celebration. June 22nd. The surveillance video shows Isaiah Chance at both places, talking on the phone. It was later discovered that Chance was speaking to Alicia Andrews and also talking to Sean Geit, 18, who was in a second suspect vehicle, a black Chevy Impala. Police reports say the other people in the black Chevy Impala were Rashad Murphy and Davin Murphy. Investigators found surveillance footage from Walmart showing Rashad Murphy the night before the murder. In the video, he was seen wearing the same clothes as the person identified as Shooter 1, who used a Glock switch pistol in the surveillance video from the Holiday Inn on the night of the murder. Rashad Murphy wore a dark black hoodie, long black jeans with a rip on the left knee, and black military-style boots. Investigators also revealed that Rashad Murphy is left-handed, which matches the shooter's hand in the video. During the party, Julio Foolio made it easy for his enemies by posting updates about the event online. Halfway through the night, He shared an Instagram story saying that the police had kicked them out of the Airbnb because there were too many people. Despite this warning, Foolio did not stop the celebration. Instead, he moved the party to a club. Investigators later tracked the suspects' vehicles to the same club where Foolio had gone. After the party, Foolio booked a room at the Holiday Inn in Tampa, Florida, where he planned to sleep for the night. He drove there in one car with another vehicle following behind. At this point, death was already one step ahead of him. Foolio's show. Killers were waiting for him at the hotel. Around 4:40 in the morning, Tampa police received a call about a shootout in the hotel parking lot. When they arrived, they found a horrible crime scene. 2 cars had been shot at, and 4 people were involved. 1 person was found dead at the scene, while 3 others were taken to the hospital but were in stable condition. The investigation revealed that Isaiah Chance and his girlfriend Alicia Andrews were seen on surveillance video entering the hotel parking lot just before Foolio. A license plate reader later confirmed that both suspect vehicles had traveled from Jacksonville to Tampa. The suspects traveled from the Jacksonville area to Tampa before Foolio's murder. After the shooting, they left the area the following afternoon. Investigators found that the suspects sent several messages from the crime scene using their phones. While Rashad Murphy was likely without his phone in Tampa, he sent messages using Shagit's phone. The phone records showed that 2 messages were sent on the same day, just a few hours after the murder, while they were still at the Airbnb. One message said, "I'm coming home, my thirst is quenched, pop a bottle of Don Julio today." The other message read, "I'm coming home, my thirst is quenched, I love you." It seemed like the suspects thought they were using codes, but the police easily figured it out. After the murder, the investigation revealed that Sungit drove the black Chevy Impala and hid it at a family member's house in Polk County. Meanwhile, Dave and Murphy drove the black Chevy Cruze back to Jacksonville. Right after the murder, Yungin Ace released 2 diss tracks, Do It and Game Over. In these tracks, he celebrated his victory and snitched on the entire operation. Game Over is a clear message, with Ace referencing Don Julio in the video, which symbolizes his win over Foolio. This was the same metaphor used by Murphy when he said, "Pop a bottle of Don Julio," after the murder. Yungin Ace dropped Game Over on June 28th at 6 p.m., and the title and timing were very disrespectful. Foolio's nickname was Lil Six, and in his track, Ace rapped lines like, "Dead on the floor, dead on arrival, Mr. Six, I'm steady screaming out," which referenced how Foolio was ambushed at the parking lot when he arrived at the hotel. What stands out the most is that Foolio had already predicted how the war would end. He said it himself, "If you in the streets and you groan, you know what the consequence is. Either you dead or you in jail."